Hello again, everyone, and welcome to another edition of This Week in the World of Football. This is episode number 356 for August 6th, 2024. I'm your host, Randy Snow. On this week's show, the matchups are set in the Indoor Football League and the Arena League championship games. The Pro Football Hall of Fame game ended in the third quarter due to lightning in the area. And the NFL had their $4.7 billion penalty over the NFL Sunday Ticket class action lawsuit dismissed. But I'm not here all by myself. Across the table from me, as always, is my son, Adam.
Yeah, little surprise about the dismissal of that. We'll talk about that later.
Yeah.
A lot of surprises this week. A lot of upsets in some of these games.
Right.
The fact that the Pro Bowl game didn't even get finished.
Yeah.
Because we all know that Bears fans have been an unruly bunch, and I kept telling them, I was like, see, nobody wanted to watch your crappy team play because they ended that game early. So, suck it, Bears fans.
Yeah, I was just there to watch the opening kickoff, and there wasn't much more to the game than that.
And literally, yeah, we'll talk about that opening kickoff. We've seen it before, but it was definitely a culture shock for the NFL community.
It's weird for the NFL. I still think the CFL does it better.
CFL does a lot of stuff right.
Yeah. Yep. All right, we come to you each week from the fabulous World of Football Man Cave, located right here in the center of the football world, Kalamazoo, Michigan. We're here to promote the game of football in all its many forms, past, present, and future. Our goal is to educate, inform, and entertain our listeners with the glorious buffet that is the world of football. All this while keeping a close eye on the rich history of the game. Thanks for checking out our podcast. We'd love to get your feedback on one of our many platforms: Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, TuneIn, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and Amazon Music. So you can simply ask your Alexa device to play the World of Football podcast. We also have timestamps down in the descriptions of both the podcast and many of our YouTube videos, so you can go right to the topics you really want to listen to. You can also find our podcast in its full audio form on our YouTube channel. Just search for The World of Football Kalamazoo or use the handle at The World of Football in the YouTube taskbar.
Taskbar is a search bar.
Search bar, okay. Search bar, sass bar, whatever.
Sass bar. You can't even say that right.
Search bar, taskbar.
You're off to a rough start today.
It's all the same.
It's not the same.
All the same. You'll find many other selected videos on our YouTube channel, like CFL Week 8 Recap, which we put out last Wednesday.
And that's it. What a slow week for us last week.
Compared to the week before, when I think we did 7 different shows.
5 days in a row,
wow. But we have an upcoming video, the CFL Week 9 Recap, which should be coming out either late tonight or tomorrow.
Yeah, we got it recorded. It's just, gonna get this show done first, and then we'll work on that. So, and then we're also gonna have Just Lying Around at some point this week. Kyle is kind of spearheading that, and I asked him, I was like, "Hey, the Lions play Thursday. Are we doing something before the game, or just wait until the game's done?" He goes, "Oh crap, I forgot." So that goes to show you the kind of people we work with here at the World of Football.
All right. Well, let's begin our tour around the world of football, and we start off this week with 2 leagues that had their championship matchups decided.
That's right. We start first with the Indoor Football League that had their conference finals this past weekend. And boy, these 2 games were nothing short of stuff to talk about. So Friday night started in the Eastern Conference Finals as the number 3 seed Massachusetts Pirates upset the number 1 seed Green Bay Blizzard 51-28.
Unbelievable.
I didn't see that coming.
No.
I mean, when we talked to our friend Trey over at Off the Wall, he had mentioned that the Pirates were a team that their ceiling was high, but they just didn't play up to their potential. They had I forget what their record was during the season, but Green Bay obviously had a great regular season. They had only lost 3 games. They won their first playoff game in like 12 years. Yep. And here the Massachusetts Pirates come in and just absolutely blow the doors off the Blizzard.
At Green Bay.
Green Bay to get that win.
To do a win like that.
So kudos to Massachusetts. Like, clearly they've had a team all season long. Clearly they put together whatever they needed to in order to, be that team that Trey saw in them.
Right.
So,
and they won a title a year or 2 ago.
Yeah, they did. But was that in the Indoor Football League, or was that part of the National Arena League?
Well, I think it was in the Arena Football, Indoor Football League.
Okay, was it indoor? I can't remember. It's been a minute. But yeah, the Pirates, have had a championship caliber team there before. Yep. So good for them. So they'll be playing in the Indoor Football League National Championship game. And then last night, Monday night, was the West Conference Finals in the Indoor Football League. And that saw the number 3 seed Arizona Rattlers just take control and take care of the number 4 seed San Diego Strikeforce 58-23. This was a game that it was like a whiteout game. So the Rattlers wore their all whites.
Right.
They had a bunch of towels in the stands. It didn't look like a big crowd. So there was a bunch of extra towels to go around.
Right.
With it being on a Monday night, I didn't get to catch this like I kind of wanted to, but I mean, the Rattlers, again, another historic indoor football / arena football team that has just always had a championship caliber roster, and it's been a while since we've seen them in the championship game as they've been in the indoor football league.
Yep.
So to see them back in the championship game, I think makes them, probably the favorites. So
maybe the way Massachusetts played, I don't know.
It could be anybody's game. It is a neutral site game. Yeah. So next Saturday, August 17th, the Indoor Football League's national championship game in Las Vegas will be played between the number 3 seed Massachusetts Pirates and the number 3 seed Arizona Rattlers. So this should be a fun, entertaining game. Definitely gonna have to set aside some time to check it out.
Yeah, they're going to have a bye week. It's not this Saturday.
Yeah, okay, not this Saturday.
Well, you said next Saturday, and that's...
I know, yeah. So I just misspoke. So they'll get a week off, then there'll be the championship game. Yep. So kudos to them.
Okay.
All right, so we're going to move on now to the Arena League. It's still weird to say.
Yeah. The Arena League had a couple of games also last weekend. Both games on Saturday. In the first game, well, I don't know which one came first. I probably have them in the wrong order. But the Duluth Harbor Monsters defeated the Ozarks Lunkers by the score of 50-18. Not much of a surprise there. Duluth was the better team. But in the second team, it was
You said the second team. It's the second game.
The second game. The Iowa Woo, who were just 1-7.
Yeah, only one game all season.
This playoff game, were going up against the Kansas City Goats, who were 7-1, and the Iowa Woo upset them by the score of 59-58.
Yeah, and I believe they stopped like a last-second 2-point conversion or something that would have won the game for KC. So, yeah, so way to go, Woo. This gives me vibes of back when the Washington Valor were, when the Arena League only had like 4 teams and the Valor had only won like 2 games all season,
right,
and ended up going to and winning the Arena Bowl championship that year. This is the vibes that gives me. So very shocked to see that the Goats dropped that game after the season they had. Again, another game that was played outdoors.
Right, second week in a row that
because they had promoted it as an outdoor game 2 weeks in a row, blah blah blah. But that sets up Arena Mania 1 championship game next Saturday, correct?
Yes, coming Saturday. Yes.
This coming Saturday. So the Iowa Woo at 2-7, the Duluth Harbor Monsters at 6-3, and this game's going to be in Duluth.
Yes.
So the Harbor Monsters will get to host that game.
Yep.
So that's pretty interesting.
Yeah. Now let's go north of the border. And now we're going to talk about some Canadian football action up there.
Oh, what a weekend in the Canadian Football League. We've already talked about this together because obviously we got that show sitting in the can where we literally just talk all CFL for it.
Yep.
So we'll give you a nice little recap, and you guys keep an eye out for our full show where we'll give you a little more bang for your buck, I would say. On Thursday night, saw the Winnipeg Blue Bombers shut out the BC Lions 25-0. Lucky Whitehead played in his first game of the season for Winnipeg, while British Columbia quarterback Vernon Adams got injured in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, this was all Winnipeg. Vernon Adams did not look like himself. I don't know what was going on, but man, he could not find a receiver to save his life.
Yeah.
And gosh, it was so strange. It was so strange because BC's got a really good record this year.
Yeah.
They were like 5-2, I guess, but. Yeah, it's so unusual to see them, not score anything in a game. But yeah, I actually got to watch all 4 of these games. 3 of them were on CFL Plus, and I watched every game. The other game was on
CBS Sports.
CBS Sportsnet. Yep. Yeah. So yeah, this was just a shocker.
Yeah, I mean, this game, when I saw the posts on social media that was 25-0, I was like, wait, what? I thought when I heard Vernon Adams got hurt, I thought that was the reason, but he didn't get hurt till the fourth quarter. So it's clearly something else was going on with him.
Yep.
All right, then Friday night saw the Montreal Alouettes defeat the Hamilton Tiger Cats 33-16. Anything from this game you want to note?
No, just Montreal continues to win. They
Yep.
have the best record in the league right now at 7-1, and
Despite
just
playing the backup quarterbacks.
yeah, both of these teams I think had backup quarterbacks, or was
Not
that
Hamilton.
another
Hamilton
game?
still had Bo Levi.
Okay, but yeah, they're Hamilton I think is on their third string quarterback, Davis Alexander.
That's Montreal, not Hamilton. Hamilton still
Montreal.
has Bo Levi Mitchell.
Okay,
A
yes,
lot of names to
I
remember.
meant Montreal. I meant Montreal. So many games that we watched, or that I watched anyway,
Is it too
and
many games, or is it the dementia sitting in? I mean,
I don't know.
I guess you wouldn't know if the dementia is sitting in. So,
I hope
uh,
not.
all right, moving on. Saturday night. This is a game I actually watched pretty much 99% of the game. The 1% I missed, the opening kickoff, because the Edmonton Elks did defeat the Saskatchewan Roughriders 42-31. It's the first win for Edmonton of the season, as well as their 700th in franchise history. Kudos to them for doing that. And yeah, that opening kickoff by Saskatchewan, return for a touchdown. It's the only play I missed during this game.
Yeah.
And what an electric play it was. I went back and saw it.
Yeah,
Like,
Mario Alford bobbled the ball. I mean, he
yeah.
had his hands and he dropped it, and he's running around trying to pick it up. And when he did, he ran, what was it, 101
yards,
yards
yeah.
for a touchdown. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, but what a great game. The Trey Ford factor. We talk about this in the video, so it's not a spoiler, but like Trey Ford, unbelievable. We were wondering if he was going to be the X factor. Is he the X factor? We thought he would be. He pretty much was.
Yes.
He did some plays with his legs. He definitely had some great touch passes where that 93 bomb he threw, he just had the right touch on the ball, put it in the right spot for the receiver, and you could tell how bad Edmonton wanted it. Maybe not just for Trey Ford, but you could just tell. Like we've said all season long how close they've been. I always was wondering, like, are they a guy away? Are they a Trey Ford away from really, making these close games, go more in their favor? But one game, is not going to determine their season. Right. We'll have to wait and see. Can they keep building around Trey Ford? Can they keep going in the positive direction that a lot of people think Trey Ford can help them, move towards? That's where we're at.
Yeah, his scrambling was great. I mean, he was able to scramble.
It changes the dynamic of the game.
And he ran for 43, 46 yards in this game. Over 40 yards he ran for. So, nothing was there. He would just take off.
He didn't run enough, in my opinion. There's times where I'm like, dude, just book it. You got it. But he had a couple of dumb plays. I think he just put the ball in some bad spots. I mean, what happens? He's a younger quarterback.
Yep.
So he's still, I'm not saying he's perfect, but man, he gives you a good chance to win. He is just absolutely electric, good or bad throws. I mean, I'm just like on the edge of my seat whenever he moves.
Mm-hmm.
So I am liking watching Edmonton play, and I'm hoping that for the rest of the season, they continue to be entertaining. Speaking of entertaining, the weekend rounded out with a great comeback by the Calgary Stampeders as they defeated the Toronto Argonauts 27-23. Through three quarters, Toronto led this game. And in the fourth quarter, Calgary scored 21 unanswered to win the thing. And in the second half, Toronto only managed a rouge altogether. Yeah, so it was just Calgary. You got to play a full four quarters, Toronto. You don't play a full four quarters, you could lose a game. And this is what happened. Calgary played a crucial quarter at the end of the game to snag it from them. And it's just, man, as an Argonauts fan, it's really disheartening. I don't know what this team is. Sitting at 4-4 now. So
yeah, both of these teams are now 4-4. Toronto, gosh, they had that game won. It was their game to lose, and they did. And oh my gosh, I was so disheartened. And I was rooting for Toronto all the way. And you say it was a great comeback. No, not if you're an Argos fan.
If you're an Argos, I'm an Argos fan. I'm still gonna call it a great comeback. When I was gonna hop on to CFL Plus to watch this game, and when I saw that the score was like 22-6 or whatever at one point, I was like, oh, Toronto's got this.
Yeah.
So I just went about my night, and I was doing some other stuff before the House of the Dragon finale. So I was like, well, I guess I can do some other stuff before the finale. Looks like Toronto's got this. So when by the time we met up to record the show, I was like, wait, Toronto lost?
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
It was awful to watch.
Yeah. All right, and then on bye this week was the Ottawa Red Blacks. So here are your standings through 9 weeks. In the East Division, the Montreal Alouettes at 7-1, the Ottawa Red Blacks at 5-2, the Toronto Argonauts at 4-4, and the Hamilton Tiger Cats at 2-6. In the West Division, the British Columbia Lions and Saskatchewan Roughriders are both at 5-3. The Calgary Stampeders at 4-4. The Winnipeg Blue Bombers now at 3-6, creeping up there, and the Edmonton Elks at 1-7. Now let's head across the pond and talk about the European League of Football.
Yes, the European League of Football. This was week 11 out of 14 regular season weeks for them. On Saturday, it was the Vienna Vikings over the Helvetic Mercenaries of Switzerland, 49-3. Also on Saturday, the Madrid Bravos defeated the Hamburg Sea Devils, 52-9. Another Saturday game, the Stuttgart Surge over the Milano Seamen, 51-18. And then there were three games on Sunday. Cologne Centurions over the Frankfurt Galaxy, 43-37. And you have a note here that this was the biggest comeback in ELF history.
Yeah, apparently that's what they tweeted out, or they, if you have their app, it's a nice little app. They sent that out. But my only problem right now is I have gone to their YouTube channel to find highlights of that game. And it's been a while since I've been able to catch highlights. I've been pretty busy lately. And as I'm looking through, I'm like, where are the highlights for that game? And they aren't there.
Well, when I look for highlights, I don't go to their YouTube page. I go right to their website.
Oh, I mean, it could be on their website, but
that's where I've been able to find all.
But usually they're right on top of it with their YouTube channel. I've liked what they've done with their YouTube channel, but yeah, they have not had those highlights up there for a couple days, and I was a little concerned that, is this league slipping because they do not have that up there? And I'm like looking at their app trying to find the highlights right now. Not that I've really used their app to watch highlights, but it was still just like, what's happening right now?
Well, for anybody out there, if you want to see this big comeback, go check out the Cologne Centurions defeating the Frankfurt Galaxy this past weekend on the European League of Football website.
Yeah, because I'm looking at it right now. I'm looking at the box score, right? And it looks like going into the fourth quarter, the Galaxy was up. Let's see, that's 37-20. So they were up by 17 points. It looks like.
Okay.
If I'm doing that math right. Yep. So it was like 17-20, and then because it went into overtime.
Oh, was it overtime?
Yeah, it went into overtime.
I didn't see that it was overtime.
I believe it went into overtime because, so the Centurions scored 17 unanswered in the fourth quarter to tie it up at 37, and then they scored the game-winning touchdown there in the overtime period. So,
wow.
Yep.
Okay.
So, yeah, I wish I could talk about those highlights, but I can't find them. I was super excited when I got that little alert from their app, and I was like, oh yeah, I want to go check these out, and I haven't been able to find them.
Yeah, they'll probably be there tomorrow for you to watch.
They should be up there already.
All right. Also on Sunday, it was the Paris Musketeers over the Berlin Thunder, 40-37, and the final game of the weekend, the Munich Ravens over the Prague Lions, 47-14. This means that the Tyrol Raiders of Austria, the Barcelona Dragons, the Wrocław Panthers of Poland, the Rhine Fire, and the Fehérvár Enthroners of Hungary all had a bye last week. So let's look at the standings. We're going to start in the East, and the Vienna Vikings are at 11-0. They have already clinched a playoff spot, clinched their division actually. The Wrocław Panthers are at 4-5. Berlin Thunder at 4-6. Fehérvár Enthroners at 2-7, and the Prague Lions at 0-10. In the Central, it's the Stuttgart Surge at 9-0, Tyrol Raiders at 6-3, Munich Ravens at 6-3, Milano Seamen at 3-7, Barcelona Dragons at 2-7, and the Helvetic Mercenaries at 1-9. Then in the West Division, it's the Rhine Fire at 9-1. They have clinched a playoff spot. The Paris Musketeers are at 7-2, along with the Madrid Bravos. The Cologne Centurions are at 4-5, Frankfurt Galaxy at 3-6, and the Hamburg Sea Devils at 2-7. They have been eliminated from the playoffs at this point.
And just so you know, they're not divisions. They technically call them conferences.
Yeah, fine.
Just a note in there. I'm going to add.
Okay. Add that because I just put West, East, and Central. I didn't say if there was a division or a conference.
Yeah. Just thought I'd let you know.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for pointing out one more thing I did wrong.
Hey, that's what I'm here for.
I really appreciate it.
It's literally what I get paid for on this show now.
All right, now we're going to head back stateside and cover some more football happenings right here in our own backyard. We're going to start in the NFL, of course. On Thursday, the Pro Football Hall of Fame game in Canton featured the Chicago Bears defeating the Houston Texans by the score of 21-17. No Caleb Williams for the Bears, no C.J. Stroud for the Texans. And this game was actually halted in the third quarter with 3:31 left when lightning rolled in. So they made everybody, leave
Yeah.
the stands, and it was raining pretty heavy. And eventually they said they're not going to finish the game.
Yeah.
So that was the final score. Game never resumed.
Yep. We don't really talk preseason here. This is like the
No.
one preseason game we'll
Yep.
talk about.
And they made a big deal about the opening kickoff or all the kickoffs, and I was not impressed. I mean, we've seen this type of kickoff before used in the UFL. But
XFL. They never used it in the UFL.
did they?
No.
Thought they used it this year.
Nope. It was just in the XFL. They abandoned it for the UFL when they merged because Daryl Johnson didn't want it.
Oh,
so,
okay.
But hey, look, I have no problem with this being the kickoff rule. It's interesting, and at least the NFL is trying something different, even if they're stealing it from another league. But in terms of like the major sports leagues, you do have to give the NFL credit. They will change where they need to. And this was an area where they're like, well, we have to do something different. Hey, at least they're trying something different. Mm-hmm. It's just for the season. We'll see how it goes. I have no problem with it. I don't get all the people crying about it. It's weird to look at it first, but you get used to it. And hopefully it'll be safer for the players. That's the big thing. I saw some of the highlights of them literally playing the first kickoff like 2 or 3 times in a row just to talk about it. Like, I don't know. I'm just ready for it to be the normal part of the game. And it'll be weird seeing it in the video game when the new Madden comes out. That'll definitely be a big shock.
I think they could have done better. They should do what the Canadian Football League does. You move them back so far so that it never reaches the end zone. And then the receiver of the kick has a 5-yard halo around them. So if you're within 5 yards of the guy that catches the ball, it's a penalty, and so they give him even more yards at the end of the run. But yeah, I mean, at least that way it gives the guy a chance to catch the ball and to look around and decide, here's my best route to get out of here.
Right, and it makes them for a more exciting play. Yeah, because the CFL, they got exciting kickoffs. They've had a couple of guys this season that have returned kicks and punts for touchdowns. I mean, they have 2 players currently playing that are like in the top 5 or 6 guys all time returning kickoffs. So, whose names escape me at the top of my head, but it's a much more exciting, play in the CFL. Maybe the NFL, maybe they go, this was interesting, but let's try it that way next year. And then when they go back to a more traditional looking, you just tweak the rules, you move them back. I never understood why they didn't just move them back further.
Yeah.
I mean, you got 100 yards there. Why kick off at the 30? Kick it off at the 20 or the 15 or something. Shoot, go all the way back to your own goal line. You're going to have some of these kickers. There's some of these kickers that could be able to boot it. I mean, come on now.
Yeah.
Give yourself that field. I mean, make it way more exciting. Your stats might take a hit because they're returning it out to the 50 or the 40.
Yeah.
But, hey, for the sake of a fun, make the kickoffs fun again, just do it. I'm tired of seeing them kicked out of the back of the end zone.
Yeah. Yeah, really. I didn't care for that. All right, and then on Saturday, it was the 2024 class of Pro Football Hall of Fame for the enshrinement ceremonies took place.
You watch any of those?
I did not. I was actually in South Bend, and I was.
Oh yeah, when you were trying to find your Canadian flag.
Yeah, and I was driving home, so I listened to some of the speeches on the Sirius XM app while I'm driving home. So I didn't actually see them, but I heard them. And the 7 new enshrinees are Randy Gradishar, Devin Hester, Steve Mongo McMichaels, Julius Peppers, Dwight Freeney, Andre Johnson, and Patrick Willis. I think I heard Randy Gradishar's speech. I heard Devin Hester's speech. I heard a bit of what they were doing with McMichaels because he was, he suffers from ALS, so he's bedridden at home. And
so I saw the video of his. That was like the one thing from the weekend I saw that, and a couple of the bus, which like Devin Hester's bus was pretty cool. But yeah, McMichaels, right? Mongo, right? Bedridden, and I don't know the whole story there, other than he's got the ALS or whatever. And when they showed him his bus, because they did it in his house,
right,
which was cool, but at the same time, I was very not uncomfortable, but I just thought it was weird, and I felt bad and kind of sad.
It was sad. It was very sad.
This poor guy, he had all these people around him, and I don't know if he's all there in his head, which makes it even sadder because he's clearly taking it all in.
Right.
But man, that was hard to watch. I was like, boy, I know they're trying to do something positive here, but man, this is a tough watch.
Yeah, it was hard to watch.
But I mean, not saying he's not deserving. That's
No,
not what
no,
I'm
absolutely
saying.
not. But he's one of many Bears from that '85 Bears team that have all gone into
Yeah.
the Hall of Fame, and I think some of them were there with him.
Yeah.
They brought him his jacket, they brought him the bust right to his house, and yeah, so it was touching, but it was very sad, and it
Yeah.
was a little hard to watch.
Yeah.
But I'm glad they did it. What else could you have done? It
Right.
had to be done this way
Yeah.
for him. And I was listening to Devin Hester's speech, and he was talking about being, so proud to be the first, basically kick returner that's in the Hall of Fame, and and I think I've been saying that he deserves it. I mean, he was a great kick returner and
Yeah. We
everything.
hated playing Devin Hester.
Yeah, I mean,
We
every
played
time
him
he got
twice a year.
yeah,
For a
every
long
time he got
time.
the ball, it's like, oh my gosh, this guy could take it back, and he did many times. Took a kickoff back in the Super Bowl.
Right.
Nobody's ever done that before. But he was talking about it, and in the way he ended off, he said that you know I may not be the greatest, but at least I'm the first, and that got me thinking about a kick returner that I remember watching. So I looked up Devin Hester's stats on Pro Football Reference. That's where I get all my stats from.
I'm not a
Looked them up,
sponsor.
and I only looked. I mean, yeah, he had running stats and receiving stats and whatever. I just looked at the punt and kickoff return stats that he had. Okay, in his career, in an 11-year NFL career, he returned punts and kickoffs for 11,034 yards. Uh, Now, the guy I'm talking about is Mel Gray, who played for Detroit, and I always thought he was a fantastic kick returner. In fact, a few years ago, you know how the NFL Network does all those, or NFL Films does, the top 10 this, the top 10 that, the top 10 kick returners of all time. Well, he was on that list of top 10. Mel Gray was. And I looked at Mel Gray's stats, and he had just punts and kickoff returns, 13,538 yards and 9 touchdowns over 13 seasons. Plus, he played 2 seasons in the USFL with the LA Express. So I'm going to be campaigning for Mel Gray to also go into the Hall of Fame at some point because he was an awesome kick returner.
Maybe, but I mean, 10 touchdowns shy of Devin Hester there. 19 touchdowns is.
But 3,000 yards more.
Well, it's 2,500.
Whatever.
2,504 to be exact.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's just, and he played 2 more seasons than Devin Hester did, and Devin Hester got more touchdowns in a shorter span. I'm not saying Mel Gray doesn't deserve it. Don't get me wrong, but to say he's better than Devin Hester,
I'm not saying he's better.
Okay,
I'm just saying that he deserves to be considered.
Okay.
And I think Devin Hester absolutely deserves to be in the Hall of Fame for what he did as a kick returner. I'm not disparaging him whatsoever, but I'm just saying that Mel Gray was also pretty darn good when you compare the two stats together.
Okay.
That's
right, well,
that's my only point.
All right, somebody clip that out and send that to the Hall of Fame voters. Let Randy into the room. He'll make a passionate speech for Mel Gray.
I would love to do that. I would love to be the person that goes up before the committee and makes the argument for somebody. And if it's Mel Gray, I'd love to do that. I'd do it for just about anybody if I really thought that they could do it. But,
all right.
yeah.
Well, what if they told you get to do it, but the player you have to fight for is Aaron Rodgers? What do you do?
This bum does not deserve your vote. Thank you. All right, let's move on to another story here. The Atlanta Falcons signed Canadian quarterback Nathan Rourke to a 1-year contract worth a whopping $915,000. But yeah, we just talked about him last week being released by the Giants.
Yeah.
And then he got, a few days later, he got picked up by the Atlanta Falcons. So we'll see.
I mean, heck of a quarterback
It's
room.
better than
going
CFL
into.
money, sure.
Yeah, and it's a heck of a quarterback room he's going to be entering going into
Yeah.
the preseason because you got Kirk Cousins obviously making his big money. You got Michael Penix, the quarterback they just drafted in the first round, who's going to be making a lot of money. And here's little old Nathan Rourke sitting in right now, I guess the third string spot. If they're going to pay you $915,000 to be a third stringer, I mean, shoot, half of us wish we could be a third stringer and make that kind of money.
Yep.
But I mean, I was really hoping he'd go back to the CFL. I'm not telling him like don't pursue your NFL dream, But man, I feel like the Falcons situation, like if that's what you're trying to do, I don't know. I guess it's better to be on a roster than not. But man, I'd rather see him be playing. It
Yeah.
stinks seeing him in a backup role. But I
Yeah.
mean, he's making the good money
Yep.
and not having to get hurt. So
Yeah. He was awesome in
he
the
in that limited time we
CFL.
saw him, he was like, oh, he was the golden boy. He was the guy we thought would be the poster child for the CFL.
2 great seasons with the BC Lions. And the thing about him is he is from Canada. Most of your quarterbacks in the CFL,
Right,
believe it
from
or
the
not,
States, yeah.
are American players. But he and Trey Ford are two that grew up in Canada, played high school football in Canada, played college football in Canada, Canadian all around, and so they got a lot of attention for that because that's unusual.
I mean, if I was the CFL, I would never let a guy like that go. Purebred,
Well,
pure Canadian bred quarterback. Like, come on.
you can't refuse a guy a chance to make a
I
lot of
know you
money to sit
can't.
on the bench or
I know you
learn
can't.
from some of these great quarterbacks in the NFL.
CFL just got to pony up the money. You tell me they can't say, hey, we'll give you $1 million to come back up to, Canada and play for what team needs a quarterback real bad right now? Toronto. Toronto could use a quarterback. We'll give you a cool $1 million to start.
Yeah. All right, let's see. Another story here. A federal judge has overturned the $4.7 billion verdict against the NFL over the NFL Sunday ticket package in a class action lawsuit. Um, they said that the testimony of two of the people during the trial should not have been allowed, and therefore they're like uh, dropping the whole thing on a technicality or something. I don't know.
How the
It
NFL
sounds
continues.
awfully fishy
It does.
that once again the NFL has managed to slip through the legal fingers and no harm, no foul. Hey, we didn't do anything wrong. And
Yeah, I'm sure
son
there's
of a
way
gun.
much more to this. I mean, you did a good job setting up the bullet points when we initially talked about this whole case. Or
Right.
whatever.
Yeah.
You did a real good job, putting that together.
It was a great article that I
Yeah.
was referencing.
And there's been some good videos out there I've seen about it. I really haven't followed much about this dismissal. It does sound fishy. The fact that two people should not have even been allowed to testify
Yeah.
or give testimony seems like, well, gee, the NFL's got crack lawyers right there on the spot. Like, how did they not catch that right from the get-go? You'd think with the amount of money and experience that their lawyers probably have, they would have caught that right from the jump.
I'm sure there was they might have said something during the trial, but the judge said no, I'm going to allow it. And then after he thought about it or whatever,
Maybe not. I don't know. It does sound awfully fishy.
I don't understand the legal stuff.
I don't either. But I mean,
yeah, they were this was a huge black mark on the NFL, and it looked like all the teams were going to have to come up with a couple $100,000.
I don't know, a couple $100 million.
Well,
I mean, that's not.
Yeah, a couple
$200,000 is nothing. That's a drop in the bucket to these teams.
That's true.
So I don't know. It sucks to hear this that the NFL just can't, can't even escape a slap on the wrist. Good Lord, like what do we got to do?
So I don't know if they're going to try and retry this again, or if they can't. I don't know. It's just a mess. But that's the way it is right now. It's that the whole thing has been dismissed, so they don't owe anybody anything.
Jeez, yeah.
And the last story I've got here is the Packers have unveiled white helmets for one of their helmets this season. What did you think of the white helmet?
Felt a lot like the Packers had no original ideas.
Well,
I almost want to do a video on these alternate helmets because I thought the idea of having an alternate helmet, like you see them in college football, a lot of them have like really cool designs. Like look at the New Mexico Aztecs, right?
Yes.
I believe that's who it was, or San Diego State Aztecs.
Yep.
They had that cool Mayan helmet, like that was cool.
Yeah.
They've
the sundial.
the sundial type thing. What do you want to call it? The calendar.
Yeah, Mayan calendar.
The Mayan calendar helmet. That's what it's called. But then you get the teams like Oregon that's just got so many alternates up the wazoo.
Yeah.
It's hard to keep track of.
They've ruined that.
But you have schools and programs that bring out an alternate helmet. It's like, hey, that's fun. It's cool that they did that. Like whenever the Air Force or Army busts out like awesome one-off helmets, which you got a couple mini helmets of now.
Yeah.
Great. In the NFL, it was all just kind of like, well, it's the same helmet, but it's just reverse colors. Like I think the Bears were one of the first ones. I was like, oh, how uninspired! An orange helmet with a blue logo
that was
instead.
Awful.
That's uninspired. I really truly, and not just because I'm a Lions fan, I truly thought that the Lions had the first true alternate helmet because it was like, it wasn't a primary logo they put on there. It was one of their old helmet logos from the 50s. And they put it on there. And I was like, that's cool. I like that they at least chose a different logo. The Ravens are doing something similar. They're using one of their alternate logos to go on the helmet, which I think is cool. But like the Packers, the Vikings, half these other teams are just putting up the same logo, but it's just a white helmet now.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. It looks good on some teams. The Packers, it doesn't look as bad as I thought it would. But the crucial element I think they're missing, just in terms of me being a uniform purist, everybody, their shoulder stripes and their pant stripes are 2 solid green and then a yellow in the middle. Their helmet, 2 solid greens on the outside and a white stripe in the middle. I'm just like, why didn't you go add a yellow stripe down the middle to at least match everything? What in the world is wrong with you people? And that was my only big thing. But the fact that I saw them doing an all-white uniform or all-white helmet, I'm like, well, it just feels uninspired.
Well, I guess, somewhere in their history, they used to wear a white helmet all the
I'm
time.
sure they did.
That was before, leather helmet days or whatever.
Sure,
They had a white
which
helmet.
is fine. And like I said, I don't think it's a bad look. Why can't you, if you're going to do an alternate helmet, why can't you be more creative? Like the whiteout helmet or the whiteout uniform now is like the new go-to easy thing for teams to do to kind of, hey, let's get that little extra mini helmet money or helmet money and do a white helmet. But like, why can't you do a cheese head helmet? Why can't it just be a helmet that looks like your cheese heads, like with the cheese holes in it? Just make it look like a block of cheese. Come on, Green Bay, get creative with it. Like that's what I want from more of these teams. Be a little more creative. Use a different logo. Like the Bears, why aren't they using their secondary logo? That's something I think a lot of fans are like, put that logo on a helmet. That'd be cool.
Yeah.
The Packers, why don't you put that old school Packers logo with the Wisconsin, state in the background with the Packer doing the, like not the Heisman pose, but kind of like with the New York Giants.
Throwing a pass.
Yeah, like throwing a pass. Like put that on the helmet. Like that might be kind of cool. Like, I don't know, put Vince Lombardi's face on the helmet. Just do something different for a change. That's where I'm at right now. Like, I like the alternate helmets. I love when teams bring them out, but there's times I'm just like, you weren't that inspired now, were you? Like, don't get me wrong. I would love for the Lions to come out with a white alternate helmet, but I also like the fact that they have another helmet. But even though their new alternate helmet's blue with a black lion logo, I'm like, it's just reverse colors. It's whatever. I'm not in love with it. I don't hate it, but it's like uninspired.
I like the old, plain old silver helmet that they do with the throwback jersey. That to me is a cool look because that's exactly what they looked like during their 1950s 3 championship games.
So all you got to do is peel off the stripe and the Lions logo on the side, and you got your silver helmet there.
Right.
Maybe.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I'm waiting to see if more teams are unveiling more helmets because we talked about last week, the Jets added their 3rd helmet. I know some teams were eligible to add the 3rd helmet this year, so I don't know. And I'm still waiting on the Carolina stinking Panthers to unleash. Like, are they going to do a 30th anniversary something? Like, it baffles me that we haven't heard anything about that.
I think they've got a logo.
I haven't even seen the Panthers do that. I will look it up again.
Like
but man,
the patch that they're going to wear on the uniforms.
Maybe if they did finally, then that's something I have not seen. But because the Jaguars already did, and I love that the Jags are going back to that uniform.
I heard that they did, but I haven't seen it either. But
all right, I'm going to look it up while you keep talking, I guess.
Oh, well, I was going to turn it over to you because we're going to talk about Hard Knocks.
I could do that.
It's finished. I have not watched any of it. Well, I did watch the first episode, and I was bored out of my skull. But you finished the whole thing, and you said I would like the last episode because it was all about the draft.
I figured you might, like, even if you just watch that one particular episode, because it's kind of the culmination of what their off season would be. I have some criticisms from everything, but I thought on the most part it was good. You get to see the players get drafted. You get to see the kind of the war room where they're picking at 6 and they're like, all right, now, like hours before the draft, they kind of jump back and forth in time a little bit from like where they are in the draft. And like, as the dominoes start to fall, they jump back like 7 hours earlier. And it's like, all right, so what if this scenario happens? Okay, what if this scenario, like they have like all the scenarios kind of worked out. And I found that fascinating. Like, yeah, you would be planning on that. If you're picking at 6, you're like, all right, if we try to move up, what are we trying to do? What are we aiming to get, and X, Y, Z. Or, hey, if we're still at 6 and these are the players on the board, who do we sit and listen? Like, are we going to listen to some offers? And how would that go? How far backward are we willing to go? Because they have a couple teams call them when their pick's up. And they're like, yeah, obviously they didn't trade back because they picked Malik Neighbors at 6. but you just hear them like, okay, that's an interesting offer, but I think we're gonna stay based on that offer because like they only wanted to fall back a certain amount because they had a couple guys on their board that they really liked, but they had all like I like that you see all the scenarios. I like that they covered all that. Um, then they show, everything in Detroit. They show what's going on in the war room or the draft room as all that's happening. They, you know, I just thought it was enjoyable. 40 minutes of them doing that. I just feel like you'd probably be more entertained by that. My big criticisms of just the show in general is the scout team. The team that actually did a lot of this work that the GMs are like citing their information because like at some point they sit and do like a review with the scouts, like what do they need to improve on, what could they be, and I'm like, we didn't spend enough time with them in the 5 episodes to be like, okay, I see what kind of work they're actually doing. You get them like here and there a little bit, but not enough to be like, uh, I see what they're looking for. I see exactly what each individual is kind of overlooking, and maybe they can't because of how their
Right.
organization's
That's kind of
structured.
what I was thinking. Is
That
that maybe they don't want
Yeah,
to see a lot of
so
that.
okay, if that's the case, then whatever. But I would just love to see a little bit more behind the scenes of like, hey, follow a couple of those scouts because there was a couple of them that just sounded interesting when they'd come in. They're like, backing certain guys or they're bringing certain information to the table that the general manager and the coach are kind of looking at, and because you can already see that the GM's got so much on his plate. You're like, dang, how does he have time to look at all these evaluations? Like, okay, he's got all these scouts. Why aren't we talking to the scouts? Why aren't we learning about some of the scouts? Because a couple of them they had interesting stories. I like that after like the combine, the Giant scouts all go out to the steakhouse in Indianapolis together and like hang out. It's like, hey, this is like our first big hangout, or this is like kind of marking the end of our year before we got a draft prep and all that stuff. And then the draft is truly where they're done. They get their evaluations at the home base, and then they're back out in the world. Like, I just wanted to see more of that.
I was watching Good Morning Football this morning, and the Giants and are hosting the Lions
Yep.
for they're having a game Thursday night,
Joint practices
doing
this
joint
week.
practices, with a lot of fights everywhere.
Oh yeah.
But they were actually interviewing the general manager of the team this morning. They were talking about Hard Knocks, and he was saying, "Well, I'm surprised that this made it in and this made it in because that was kind of a personal moment, and they don't have a whole lot of control over." They don't know what's going to go in and what's not going to go in. They're just filming everything. Um, so yeah, so he did talk about that this morning. So you might be able to catch a clip or two of that. So yeah,
because I definitely felt like they were holding some stuff back, and I don't know what he'd be referring to. Like, oh, they actually showed that. Hard to say.
maybe it was somebody getting cut, but they've done that before.
I don't think they didn't really show anybody getting cut. It was mainly just them signing guys and bringing guys into the facility. Talk how they interview players that they're looking at to draft. So I don't know, but interesting. I feel like there's a lot of potential here for this type of Hard Knocks. I just wish they would focus more because they didn't even really focus on the head coach that much. Like I would assume your head coach, your GM, got to be in a lot more lockstep in terms of like how the direction of the team. But it was mainly focusing on this GM. And if I'm being honest with you, just based on this show as an impression, this isn't actually saying that like I think this guy's a bad GM. But just watching this show, I'm just like, man, if I was a Giants fan, I wouldn't be super confident in this guy. Hey, he made some good picks. He's got some sound reasoning for some stuff. I'm just like, I don't know about this guy. Maybe it's just the way the show portrayed it. Editing will change a lot of perception because that's how the story's tailored, and it makes it entertaining. And like we say that every year when we watch a Hard Knocks series, which is we think like what my first year, I like to tell people like I watched the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in 2017, 2018, whatever, before they got Brady. And I was like, wow, this team could actually turn it around. I feel like I'm confident in this team. And you know what they did? They went like five or six wins that next season. So they didn't do much better. But I got overhyped for them. I was like, this is a team to watch out for. And it's just that's what the Hard Knocks
NFL
does.
Films.
NFL Films, while they do a good job, but that narrative really sucks you in and makes you go like, I believe in this team. And the only times that really has worked since I've been watching has been the Lions when they went 9-8 that year that they were on Hard Knocks, and then the Dallas Cowboys still made it to the playoffs. Definitely didn't live up to the hype they always are, trying to live up to. But that's the only two instances I can think of teams that were actually ended up being like winning teams that year or doing anything. So it's a crapshoot with Hard Knocks, and so the same will go with this new iteration, this off season. And the run times were really short, so they were only like 40 minutes, which surprised me a little bit because I figured like they could have so much more. And the other thing I would say is like by the time you get to that last episode and some of the stuff they talk about, I'm like, why didn't we get to know these people you're bringing up in the last episode, in the first episode? And you've had enough time to edit all this stuff to be like, hey, let's go back and retool episode 1 because in episode 5 we're going to focus on this guy, because they had 20 minutes that they could have easily added just to, hey, we're going to talk with these scouts. Hey, let's do some stuff from early on to get them, involved in this narrative they're building. Because this is the one series where they have time to edit everything. And, because Hard Knocks is week to week, the training camp one is week to week. So they have a week to edit an episode and get it out.
Yeah.
So I'm just like, why? So the season that you have the most time to kind of tailor and tinker and put out, you shave it down to 40 minutes an episode, and like I don't know, I still found it interesting. I could use a little more to it, but as a first season of this type of Hard Knocks, which I'm sure they're going to keep doing.
Oh yeah.
Because hey, if you're Liev Schreiber, the guy who does all the narration, you got to be sitting pretty good, because now you're going to have 10 weeks in a row of Hard Knocks, and then eventually whenever they do the in-season Hard Knocks with the AFC North this year, he'll be doing that. So that guy's getting more work thanks to this. So I don't know. I would still recommend it. If nobody's watched it, it's 5 episodes, 40 minutes each. Just give it a night. It's probably a good, just sit down, burn through it, and you're good.
And the new series starts tonight.
It starts tonight. The Chicago Bears.
Chicago Bears one.
Rolling right into the next one.
Yep.
So.
Yep. I'll probably check out the Bears one just because I like the format of the the preseason.
Yeah, I get that.
Going through the games.
They've perfected that.
Who's doing well, and then you fall in love with some of these players, and they all get cut.
Or you don't fall in love. Like I feel like the last couple of years they really have strayed away from some of the bubble guys. Like with the Jets, I don't remember, like maybe a couple guys, but like not as much as like remember when like.
Well, that was the Aaron Rodgers show.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So it didn't matter who was catching the ball. It only mattered who was throwing it.
But like I feel like the last couple of years they just kind of started doing away with some of the cuts. Like, oh, maybe this is too harsh. Like I feel like the Lions didn't really even do too many guys that got cut. But not since like maybe that Raiders one where there was like a few guys. But I don't know. But that formula though they've had down for a couple decades almost now. Right. But I would love to see the off-season Hard Knocks, if they decide to keep doing it, which I'm sure they're gonna, tweak some things and give us a little more access. Like I said, I understand you cannot show everything. Like they still blur out boards, they blur out some stuff, which is fine. But I would just like a little more. Like, give me what about the scouts' life? What else? I want to talk about the people who set up the contracts and like what's their daily routine like with this team. Like they're the money people. Like that's the interesting thing. Like. They would have a guy walk in and be like, hey, can we afford so-and-so at this price point? Yeah, let me go crunch the numbers. I want to follow the number cruncher guy and see, like, what exactly are you doing, that salary cap magic to deal with this. So
that seems way too complicated to me.
See, that's,
the whole salary cap thing
this show should be.
Total mystery.
This show should be for the fans that like that inside, I say inside baseball, but you know what I mean? That inside football, like the behind-the-scenes stuff that you wouldn't care about, that I find fascinating.
Yeah.
But then the regular Hard Knocks, which is the actual, hey, get to know the players, get to know the coaches, and get to see this team trying to build towards you getting ready for a season.
Right.
I get that. And then your in-season's obviously the drama that we already watch. I'm still not sold on the in-season Hard Knocks. We live that one.
Yeah.
The training camp stuff is all a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff that we never really get to see. So that's a lot more interesting. So.
All right, let's move on. Let's see. Arena Football League news. Episode 2 of the turbulent revival of the Arena Football League is now up on the Arena Insider channel on YouTube. I have not seen it.
Despite you tooth and nail today telling me you watched it.
Well, I thought
this story is great, everybody. Buckle in for pure Randy Gold now.
I thought I was watching episode 2 because I knew that episode 2 was out there. I wanted to watch it for the show. And evidently what I did was I watched part 2 of an interview with the owner of the Louisiana Voodoo.
The coach of the Voodoo. Which is a 2-month-old video, which means Randy did not even look to see when that video was posted. He just saw part 2
That's right.
and clicked play.
Yep.
Because I'm sitting there arguing with him. He's like, Man, I don't know. The episode wasn't as good as I thought because it was literally just the Voodoo head coach talking for 18 minutes straight. And I'm like, what? Like he was in it for like 2 minutes. He's like, no, he wasn't. And like we argued back and forth for a good 2 or 3 minutes till I pulled up the video and said, this is the video I watched, and showed him the turbulent episode 2. And he's like, oh yeah, I didn't watch that at all.
I'd love to be able to let you know that you corrected me about something because you just love
I
that.
love it.
So,
I live for it. It makes me feel 5 years younger.
Yeah. So you or myself and everybody else should go check out episode 2 of his series.
I dug it.
I don't know how many episodes he's going to have in it.
I'm not sure. There's going to definitely be a part 3. I haven't heard a final number, but and at least at the end, it does set up for a part 3.
Right.
In this episode, though, it gets more into the week 1 stuff that we've, if you remember back when like the Soul players were, having problems with the airport, getting kicked out of the hotels, and so it starts digging into some of that stuff. So it was very fascinating. Had a couple interviews in there that I don't remember seeing him do, but I don't know if there's some interviews that were exclusively just for this video. He definitely reused some of the interviews from, his channel, which, hey, all good interviews.
Right.
So Anthony's doing a good job over there putting this together. And I just wish that these episodes were a little closer together because it's been like 2 weeks since the first one and into the second one.
Yep.
So I'm on pins and needles. Like I want to see the rest of this just in one big chunk. So keep it up over there, Anthony.
But also on thanks to Arena Insider, they put out a story just yesterday, I think it was, about the U.S. Trademark Office denying former AFL Commissioner Lee Hutton and his Arena Football Management LLC company to claim the Arena Football League logo. The way you read that to me, this is pretty complicated too, but the way you read it to me, it sounded like he tried to submit a trademark on the logo that already existed.
Yeah.
So he just basically took their logo and they said, now I want to register it because, I'm the commissioner of the league and I want it for myself.
Right.
And they said, no, you can't. It's already registered and it's not yours.
Yeah, the timeline's interesting because he filed for this back in November 13th of 2023.
Right.
So that's when the league was starting to get, booted up. And we had found out later, obviously, when he got dismissed, that Chris Getty, the chairman or whoever of G6 Sports, right?
Yes.
CEO Chris Chetty of G6 Sports said that they were trying to work on a deal with Hutton and his Arena Football Management LLC to buy everything, but they kept coming up with excuses why they couldn't pay for it or whatever. But he files this trademark in November, gets denied on June 29th. The office sent him and his company a response saying, that he couldn't do it. Like it's be brand confusion, whatever. They can't do it.
Right.
And he's got apparently till September 29th to respond to this letter, or the application will be officially denied. According to Anthony's article on Arena Insider, the notice was sent to Hutton's league office and email address, but his firm's website is abandoned. So interesting there. I'm just waiting for Lee Hutton to come out of the woodwork like the Undertaker from the WWE and have some more crazy shenanigans go down.
I don't know if we're going to see him anytime soon. I think he's in permanent hiding now.
I don't know, but man, that's the name that Arena football fans will forever just be like, that's the boogeyman now.
Yeah. Speaking of the boogeyman,
whoa.
In the NAL, the National Arena League, they announced that they're going to have an expansion team for next season, the 2025 season, a team in Shreveport, Louisiana, and they are going to be called the Shreveport Rougarou. I think that's how you pronounce that. Rougarou, Rouxgarous. So I'm saying Rougarou, could be Rougarou, but Rougarou is what we're going to go with. It's going to be the 10th team in the league. And you just looked this up beforehand, and it is a mythical creature that has the head of a wolf and the body of a human.
I believe, that's what the.
So it sounds like something that's very down south.
But it's got a lot of different spellings. But the main one, when you Google the spelling that the team uses, it's like Rougarou, It is a creature with a human body in the head of a wolf or dog.
Hmm.
So very creepy, very swamp. A lot of pictures of this creature in a swamp.
Right. And the
So
logo is a wolf, with
yeah,
his talons out or whatever. It's a nice looking logo. I mean,
yeah,
I like the logo itself. So, um, yeah, we'll see how they do next year. They're going to be the 10th team in the National Arena League, at least at this point.
yeah.
10th team on their roster. All right, college football. The University of Kentucky and the NCAA reached a settlement last Friday over infractions that included 11 football players getting paid for work they did not perform in 2021 and 2022. Kentucky agreed to spend 2 years on probation, pay an undisclosed fine, and vacate records of any games in which those 11 ineligible players competed in. Uh, I I don't get this. In this current day of NIL, where players are getting paid left and right by sponsors. We had a story last week that the Ohio State football players, set a record for how much NIL money they brought in. That they're going back to 2021 and 2022 and punishing this team for uh, players getting paid under the table, or and this was a typical practice many years ago. Somebody would give them a job, and then they wouldn't have to do anything. That the whether it was like uh, a fan's car dealership or something like that. Yeah, well, we'll make you a car salesman, and they never show up, but they get a salary every week, and that's just how the booster or the fan gets money to the players. So it's the same old thing, but it just seems a little weird that with all the players getting paid right now with NIL money, or the teams paying them from whatever funds, um, that this is still something that schools can be tagged for by the
Yeah.
NCAA.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, there's so much, and then you didn't even put in here the story about like the stuff going on with Michigan and Sharon Moore and that whole, you know,
That's too confusing. I
eh,
saw all that coming out, and it's just it came out just like earlier today, and I haven't had the time to digest it, so I didn't want to talk about it without knowing what I was talking
yeah,
about.
I
But
get that, but it's just all these crazy stories come out with college football. It's just like, good lord, I thought like some of this NIL stuff, some of this stuff would clear some stuff up maybe, but I mean, clearly we also thought there's the other side of the coin that this was just going to make things worse. I don't know. Like we've said for a long time now, it's just they need some other sort of governing body to streamline this because
yeah,
it's getting out of hand.
yeah.
All this nonsense. Just like the thing you're about to talk about. This nonsense of you traveling.
Well, like I said, I didn't watch a whole lot of the enshrinement ceremonies at the Hall of Fame on TV this past Saturday because I was in South Bend, and I took the time while I was in town to go look up the final resting place, the new final resting place of Newt Rockne. Now, you and I have been to the original one where he was buried after the plane crash.
I don't know if
I
I
took
have.
a couple of the kids. I was assuming you went with
I
me.
don't remember going to Newt Rockne, Pennsylvania to see this.
It's not Pennsylvania, it's South Bend.
Well, now it's in South Bend, but I thought it was
No,
originally
it was in
Pennsylvania.
South. It was on one side of town. It was in the Highlands Cemetery
I don't
on the
remember.
west side of town, and they moved him across town to the Cedar Grove Cemetery in South Bend. That's on the campus of Notre Dame.
I don't know. You're the history nerd over here, not me. I don't remember.
So anyway, so I go to the cemetery. I've been to this cemetery before. I've looked up other graves. Ara Parsegian is there, and so is Leon Hart, the 1949 Heisman Trophy winner that played for Notre Dame and won 3 titles with the Detroit Lions. They're both there, and so I've been to their graves. Well, now Newt Rockne is there also. So I go there, and it's not a big cemetery, but I didn't know where to look. But it's a Saturday, so I assumed their office would be open, which most cemeteries they have somebody there on a Saturday. Their office was not open, so I couldn't ask anybody where it was. So I'm sitting there in my car, and it's like 90 degrees that day, and I'm sitting there with the air conditioning on, and I got my phone out, and I Googled the story about how they moved his body, and I found a picture of what the 3 headstones. It's him, his wife Bonnie, and their son William. They were together at the other cemetery, and now they're together at the new one. So I saw a picture where, okay, there's the 3 markers, same markers they had before. There's like a big wreath, by the 3, and there's also a blue light that must be like a solar light that comes on at night or something. I don't know. So I said, well, I guess I can drive around and look for that. So I leave the office, which is right towards the front of the cemetery. I drove about 20 yards, and there it was, right to my left. And I get out. Yep, that's them. They're right by the office. So if you're looking for them, yeah, they're right by the office, not too far away. But I snapped a picture of myself and each one of the headstones, and was glad that I found them because there was talk that they might get them new headstones when they got to the new cemetery. But so far they have reused the original ones. So uh, yeah, I've never had to go back to a grave to find it again or to find somebody's final resting place again. But this was a first for me.
Yeah.
I know I went to one because they put up a new headstone once, but the person was still there. All right, let's talk about some birthdays today. August 6th, quarterback Seneca Wallace turns 44 today. He played his college football at Iowa State. He was selected in the fourth round of the 2003 NFL draft by the Seattle Seahawks. He played 8 NFL seasons. He was with the Seahawks from 2005 to 2009, the Cleveland Browns in 2010 and 2011, and the Green Bay Packers in 2013. Did I say 2003 draft? I thought I said 2008 draft. It was the 2003 NFL draft. Anyway, the other one today is defensive tackle C.J. Mosley. He turns 41 today. He played his college football at Missouri, and he was selected in the sixth round of the 2005 NFL draft by the Minnesota Vikings. He played 11 seasons in the NFL. He was with the Vikings in just the 2005 season. Then he was with the Jets from 2006 to 2008, the Browns in 2009, the Jaguars from 2010 to 2012, and the Detroit Lions from 2013 to 2015. Now, there is another C.J. Mosley, currently a linebacker, playing for the Jets. And so when I first saw the name and I realized we're talking two different people here, I had to connect the right birthday with the right person today. So, yeah, there is another C.J. Mosley with the Jets. All right, obituaries. This is where we take a moment to honor those who've made the world of football a better place. And we're going to start out with Jim Nenowski, a quarterback in the NFL for 12 seasons. He has passed away at the age of 88. Nenowski played college football at Michigan State and was selected in the fourth round of the 1958 NFL draft by the Cleveland Browns. He played 2 seasons with the Browns in 1958 and 1959. He then played for the Detroit Lions in 1960 and 1961 before returning to play for the Browns from 62 to 66. He won an NFL title with the Browns in 1964. Nenowski finished his playing career with the Washington Redskins from 1967 to 68 and the New Orleans Saints in 1969.
Our next obituary is that of Jerry Simmons, a wide receiver in the NFL for 9 seasons, has passed away at the age of 81. Simmons played college football at Bethune-Cookman and signed as a free agent with the Pittsburgh Steelers in 1965. He played for the Steelers from 65 to 1966 and also played for the New Orleans Saints, Atlanta Falcons, and Chicago Bears through 1969. He finished his playing career with the Denver Broncos from 1971 to 1974. After his playing career was over, Simmons became a longtime NFL scout. He was inducted into the Bethune-Cookman Hall of Fame in 2016.
Our next obituary is that of Waddell Smith, a wide receiver in the NFL and the Canadian Football League, has passed away at the age of 70. Smith played college football at Kansas and was selected in the 8th round of the 1977 NFL draft by the Kansas City Chiefs. However, he chose to sign with the CFL's Edmonton Eskimos and played for the team for 7 seasons from 1977 to 1983. He won 5 consecutive Grey Cup titles between 1978 and 1982, and that was during the Warren Moon era. He also played 1 season in the NFL for the Dallas Cowboys in 1984.
And our final obituary this week is that of Dwayne Thomas, a running back in the NFL and the World Football League, passed away at the age of 77. Thomas played college football at West Texas A&M and was selected with the 23rd overall pick in the 1970 NFL draft by the Dallas Cowboys. He played 2 seasons for the Cowboys in 1970 and 1971 and 2 seasons for the Washington Redskins in 1973 in 1974. He finished his playing career in 1975 with the Hawaiians of the World Football League.
Yeah, I wrote that wrong. He was with the Redskins in 72 and 73.
72 and 73.
Yeah.
All right, you put 73 and 73.
4 consecutive years in the NFL, 2 teams, and then a half a year with the Hawaiians because the league folded halfway through that season. So, okay. Finally, our upcoming events calendar today. Tonight, August 6th, Hard Knocks training camp with the Chicago Bears premieres on HBO and Max. 5 episodes there. Next week, Tuesday the 13th, is going to be our 7th anniversary show. I've got some work to do before next week. I've got some highlights that I want to cut out, and we'll play those at the end of the show next week. Those are always kind of fun to look back on some of the silly stuff we did.
The insults we slung back and forth.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, I got to find as many as I can that go your way and less of the
How's
ones
that list
go my
looking
way.
this year? Is it comparable to years past?
It's hard to say. I've got 4 or 5. I don't even remember what they are right now, but I've been writing them down, and I've got 4 or 5. I think 5 altogether. So we'll see. It's basically goofy stuff, of course. Saturday, August 24th, week 0 in college football. I think there's 4 or 5 games that day. Thursday, September 5th, the NFL regular season begins. The Ravens at the Chiefs. That should be a really good game. And then the very next night, Friday, September 6th, the Eagles will take on the Packers in Sao Paulo, Brazil. That game's going to be exclusively on Amazon Prime. All right. Anything that's come over your phone that we need to talk about before we end this show?
Doesn't look like it.
All right. Well, that's all the time we have for this week. If you learned something during this podcast about the incredible amount of diversity that exists in the world of football, then we have done our job. Visit our website at theworldoffootball.com for news, links, upcoming events, original articles, videos, and more. Our email address is info@theworldoffootball.com.
You can follow The World of Football on Facebook, X, and Instagram, where the address for all 3 of those is TWOF Kalamazoo. New episodes of this podcast are posted on Tuesdays and are available on SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, TuneIn, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and Amazon Music. So you can simply ask your Alexa device to play the World of Football podcast to hear us on whatever Alexa devices you may have. You can also find the full audio version of this show on our YouTube page. Just enter The World of Football Kalamazoo or use the handle @The World of Football in the YouTube search bar. So please spread the word, subscribe, rate, review, give us a like, leave us a comment, and please let us know what you think and come be a part of the football conversation. What are you writing down?
Just making a little note for myself. Speaking of our website, I was just on there this morning and I was doing some updates.
Oh, were you?
Yeah, and I added that picture of me at the new Newt Rockne grave.
Oh.
So if you go to our website, theworldoffootball.com, up along the top, there's a link that says About Me, and it's kind of about us, but it's mainly about me.
Yeah.
And I've got a ton of pictures there. All the graves that I've been to, a lot of other statues and things that I've visited, all football related. In 2006, I went to the original Newt Rockne grave, and so you can see a picture of that under 2006. And then the very last one at the very, very bottom, there's a ton of pictures there. You'll see me at the new location for Newt Rockne's body.
Okay.
All right. And remember, folks, some people may love football more than we do, but nobody, and I mean nobody, loves more football than the 2 of us guys sitting here in Kalamazoo talking football. Until next time, when we'll try and do a better job. Yeah, right. I'm Randy Snow.
And I'm Adam Snow.
And we'll see you all again next week for our 7th anniversary show.